Good afternoon, friends. The next session in our technical sessions is by Dr. Chakradhar Ayuni. He will be talking about the uncertainty analysis of proposals via milieu analysis. Seems to be an interesting topic, Doctor. So, Dr. Ayuni is at L&T Institute of Project Management at Vadodara. He has he comes with around 24 years of academic and industrial research experience in oil and gas, energy utilities, and aerospace industries. He earned his PhD in mechanical engineering, supported by an additional MS in engineering mechanics as well. Thereafter, so he has done 2 MS. One is in engineering mechanics and other is in mathematics. Dr. Chakradhar's focus is on scope management and time estimation with risk as an overriding parameter for project control. Basic motivation stems from the creation of an experiential body of knowledge based on the research from his current projects. With his background in engineering services as a project discipline, he believes that by applying statistical thinking along with the scientific and systematic project management techniques will lead to successful project execution. Project implementation challenges and innovations are his areas of interest. So let me welcome Dr. Chakradhar Ayuni on stage to take us through his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nihar, for the introduction. My seminar for this afternoon is in keeping with the theme of this conference, is relating to the uncertainty analysis in proposals. And as you heard Dina talk about, the complexity of project stems, one of the reasons it stems from is having diverse stakeholders in your projects. So that's what we're going to talk about. My co-author for this, can you hear me better? Yeah. Okay. My co-author for this is Monica Purohit. She's a PGPM student at NICMAR Pune, taking her exams as we speak. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of slides of introduction and giving you a little bit about why I wanted to do this work, some background for this work, and then explain to you what is the characterization for proposals, and then give you an illustration and come out with some of the results that we found and maybe some future work, ideas for future work. Okay. The motivation, essentially, all of you would have noticed that this year the stakeholder management has become separate from the communications management in PMBOK 5th edition. So this engagement with stakeholders, managing their expectations, is an important aspect of managing projects, and we wanted to see what is the impact of this stakeholder management on proposals. Whether you're looking at IT, ITES industry or EPC industries, the industry in today's environment, the VUCA environment Bhaskar Pramanik was talking about, is that they have to be flexible, adaptive, and innovative. Okay, and the key part of it when it comes to proposal is to operate beyond transactional logic. The premise that we're going to make here is that proposals address a couple of things. First, they address or they give confidence to the customer milieu, that is the ecosystem that the customer for whom you're doing the projects, it addresses their needs. Secondly, it addresses the business viability of your organization. And finally, without the right proposal in place, you can't think of delivery excellence. All right. The way we've been doing things in India, we've had many successes over the last 10, 15 years for sure, and very optimistic about the growth scenarios. But I feel that this isn't enough. Also, there is an undue focus on customer relationship management without the build-up on technological competence. The other thing that we have been doing is we've been diversifying capabilities, not going into the depth of them. We've not been differentiating, we've not been creating a depth in the capabilities in the nation. Global plays in any sector, whether it's IT, IES or EPC, has been the name of the game over the last 10, 15 years, but then it has been very selected. It's very segmented exposure to all these global plays. You play safe, you don't go, you don't seem to be taking market leadership. So the important thing for me here is that we need leadership in managing the uncertainty, and which is a level 3 behavior, is my assessment of a level 3 behavior. The background challenges for ESO, again, Dina Gordon did a great job for me. I don't need to say anything that's on this slide. All of these things is what Dina mentioned as to what contributes towards uncertainty in projects, and especially in the IT, ITES industries. Key among them is the use of bottom of the talent pyramid, diffuse scope statements, and optimistic expectations. All of this reflects for new project management paradigms, especially for ITES industry. The other aspect that makes uncertainty rampant in these projects is the account or customer teams, where they fall prey to a number of things, especially what we saw the previous speakers, Ashutosh and Ms. Sundari. The lack of differentiation of the work made them, it increased their costs. And as you can see, even in a growing industry where the year-on-year growth was 30%, they were able to get a significant reduction in the costs, in the utilizations, and for project by project. So that differentiation, that compartmentalization is very important. It doesn't happen in IT, ITES industry again. The significant effort for proposal creation, again, is not billable. This is a dark secret that senior management use as a sword on relationship managers, and it's not given enough credit there for the amount of effort that goes into proposal creation. Organizational influence on poor proposals. There isn't much learning from poor proposals. You're either hiding it away, you're making it up with other discussions with the customer, and what is the role of the account or project manager in making sure that the proposal goes through well is important. The other things that impact proposal making is the synergy between sales and delivery teams. Intense competition, attrition of account managers also influence poor proposal, learning from proposals and the proposal process. The important thing that also seems to come up now, and as the organizations grow, they are creating new levels of accountability. So if it's a small proposal, then only the project manager or project lead is involved. When the proposal size increases, the account manager gets involved. When it's a little bit bigger, then the vertical head, and so on till the chief executive is involved in a large size of the proposal. The underlying uncertainties that I mentioned in the last two slides become risks and problem situations. So what I've done is I've taken all the things in the last two slides and have characterized it in 4 broad categories. This is my uncertainty look for this industry. And our understanding is that this way of characterization isn't so bad for other sectors where it's a product company or maybe even the EPC organization. The knowledge of the market is definitely important. The knowledge of technology, the use of technology, how it gives you competitive edge is clearly important as well. Then the people interaction and processes, both within the milieu and outside of the milieu, what is the nature, character of this interaction? That's the other uncertainties. The last is the customer relationship and information. The sales delivery synergy is one important thing. Then also matching of requirements to expectation. You may be getting just a CAD model, but they may be expecting something to put on the moon. So the matching of requirement to expectation is a very important uncertainty to be managed in such projects. Some literature from the first three papers of Koa, Holstius and Tikkanen is coming from the EPC ground. And essentially what they have in all these three papers, they have addressed the three things that I mentioned in my first slide, is going beyond the transactional approach to or logic to proposals. The other thing is the importance of stakeholders, that is the milieu, the ecosystem is important, and hence in the ecosystem itself there are two levels of relational dimensions. One is the project team and the other is the organization level, the ecosystem which is outside of the project team, which is supporting the project team. This ties in very well with the concept that organization does play an important role in your delivery of projects. And lastly, what we saw earlier this year in the PMI Chennai conference is we try to address the nature of risks when scope and schedule interact. Most of us do risk management as if it's a linear arrow type of thing. If I do this or if I don't do this, this event will occur. If this event were to occur, I'm going to lose this, so let me do this mitigation. That's a one-dimensional approach. You're just going down a chute. But that, all of you, the real world guys out there know that it doesn't happen that way. Somebody is doing something somewhere else. Maybe the sales guy has a conversation which is not planned, and he maybe promises something to your customer, and that comes in as a requirement. So what we wanted to look at as a first step, we don't do it here, is we wanted to look at the interaction between network of events, network of people, and that's what we proposed in the paper earlier. And I've used the same uncertainty framework that I just mentioned for addressing that risk, those scope schedule risks. The important thing that I'm going to be trying to characterize is the interaction between actors in the ecosystem. And the interaction between these actors have to be translating as quality of the proposal. If there is, if the fitness of the proposal or the quality doesn't increase, there is no need for that interaction. And we talk about two classes of proposal dimensions. One, the functional class, and the other is relational class. Typically, being the technocrats that all of us are, most of us are geeks. So we usually go after the technical aspects, and because of business requirements, we are comfortable or we are thrust upon the financial dimension as well. What we don't actively manage is the social and political dimensions. So giving you a brief idea of what these four dimensions are, the technical dimension, of course, is meet technical specification, use of latest technology, alignment of technology to scope of work, access to engineering consultants. These, when you do all of these things, the technical quality of the proposal improves. Financial, having favorable financial terms, maybe a payment schedule which is flexible, using the right type of contract. Is it fixed price, is it time and material, profit sharing, and so on and so forth. So these address the financial quality of the proposal. The social part is a little bit harder to deal with, but this is exactly what Bhaskar Pramanik was talking about in the morning. So if you remember his presentation of SMAC, and the second one was the social, and the social was key to collaborative discussion or collaborative working between the stakeholders. That's exactly what social is important, social dimension relates to. So the extent of networking where the stakeholders or the ecosystem is working together to make sure that the proposal is the right kind and is addressing all the requirements of the customer is very important. The key for large projects then is the trust and reputation your organization has among the customer's ecosystem, not yours, customer's ecosystem. That's what helps you get the large projects. Finally, the articulation of the customer's need, and not just your collaborative orientation, but the collaborative orientation of the customer as well. The political dimensions essentially relates to market share, image, reputation as a leader in the segment, and so on and so forth. So the political dimension, to address the political dimension of your customers is very, very hard unless you understand what is the relationship between the customers and their end consumers. The supply chain that your customer is in, their alignment to government regulations, and so on and so forth. Okay. So why is proposal key to the organization? So I mentioned a couple of things way up in the front, and I'm going to now give you a slightly deeper side of the story. So an ESO's account strategy is crucial to maintain sustained growth. So here's a broad example from a couple of years ago of how many accounts we were handling at various size of accounts. So this is engineering services. So typically A would be between 0 to 1 million, B would be 1 to 5, and increments of 5, and so on. So at an early stage, even when our revenues were very small, we had a huge customer base. As you can see, the number of accounts is upwards of 180 or so. And what we have tracked here is the contribution from these accounts. And what you want to do as you grow your account, this organization has since grown. I'm now in Institute of Project Management, so I get to watch this growth of this organization from afar, without the politics and without the turmoil. But the organization has grown tenfold in the last 2 years. And their management of accounts now needs to be much more refined. This is what we're going to be proposing to them. This is our initial thoughts about it. So as you can see, when you, the D and E, the big size accounts, they're coming into play. Yeah. So account growth depends, this is organizational growth, and then account growth depends on how many and what is the size of proposals that you are going to put. Okay. Just a brief about what is an account management. I think there are many from the IT industry here, so it's not something that I need to explain in great detail, but it's essentially a complex process which has a lot of market influences, industry trends, and essentially you need to figure out what is your customer organization's strategy for growth, and you align with that. So also the sales team has certain priorities. The priorities are for new accounts, the priorities are for growth, the priorities are for account mining or account farming, and also the technical team capabilities. Is the delivery organization aggressively adding technical capabilities or not? And finally, the age and health of accounts. So you could use a concept like customer lifetime value for assessing the value of these accounts. So here is some accounts that I looked at. I've just taken a few. They were in the paper that I've mentioned about 12 accounts, and I'm just looking at year-on-year growth. This is a snapshot. I'm not using this directly for the rest of the paper, but I wanted to show you that account growth is not an obvious thing. It depends on the customer's market, your relationship with your customer, the capabilities of the technical team, the dynamism of the project manager, and lots of other factors. So I just wanted to share with you the year-on-year growth for about 8 accounts here. And as you can see, some of them grow, some of them don't. Depending on the age, there may be like account number 7 didn't seem to grow on the first year or so, but this is colored by how the market for that segment was, and so on. Okay, here's a snapshot of some proposals that I've taken. These are large proposals, typically typically ranging from about 250K to about 3 to 5 million. I've just given a broad sketch of the proposal without mentioning the customer name. I'm sure you will excuse me for that. And what we wanted to, what we did was we wanted to figure out, did you win or lose the proposal, and what did you think was the reason for win or loss? Okay. So as you can see, the articulation at first wasn't there. The definitions that we showed earlier was communicated to the teams, and then we got into this kind of understanding of these proposal wins and losses. The proposals itself, whether the 4 dimensions itself are plenty or not, that's a question to be addressed later on. But the industry type, the market conditions, some years good for oil and gas, some years it's not. The customer profile, are they a company which outsources a lot? When they outsource a lot, are they in the trusting kind? Are they in the open source innovation models? Or are they the ones who hold everything close to their chest? So the customer relationship parameters as well is important. Who in the customer organization is interested in this relationship and so on. So what we did was we took these 8 proposals and we assessed them on 4 dimensions. So technical, financial, social, and political. So this is new to the literature. When you see at Kova's work or Tikkanen's work, there is a discussion of these 4 dimensions without a rating, so to speak. So we try to bring in some quantitative analysis. Now here again, this is a relative scale, and it depends on the maturity of the team. So if I did this 3 years ago, probably all the dimensions would look 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 in today's scale. So we've kind of had to look at that carefully as to if the proposals were very old versus recent proposals. And then essentially it's a scale of 1 to 4. So 4 being the best you could do, your organization could do, and on these 4 dimensions, technical, financial, social, and political. Yeah. The profile we felt is also very important determinant of proposal quality. The geography, whether they are European customers, whether Japanese customers, whether they are from the US, again product company versus process company versus automotive versus aerospace and so on. And their R&D spend, R&D versus manufacturing spend also colors this assessment quite a bit. These are actually not captured here. The technical, financial, social, and political dimensions are capturing the quality of the proposal that is being made to the customer. It got nothing to do with the customer itself. Okay. So what we found, what we did was, we took, I did a small AHP of sorts just to find a comparative of between the relational and functional and between technical, financial, political, and social. What kind of important, and you can see the differences. The blue is the wins, and the ones at the bottom are the losses. And 2 things I could quickly say. There's a cutoff score. If your proposal doesn't have an overall score of 3, these are the overall scores. The second table is the overall scores. And the technical dimension doesn't have an overall score of 4. That means if you didn't do their best job technically, you don't have a chance to win on that proposal. And 3 to 3.3 appears to be a gray area. It could be either a win or a loss, but you're not certain. There's a lot of uncertainty there. The additional part, that is one conclusion. The additional part was, so we've looked at the internal milieu, the internal ecosystem the project team has. So looking here, the senior management, sales team, the business development team, quality team, vertical heads, SMEs, and so on and so forth. And these are the guys who are supporting you in the project team in the organization. And then there's an external milieu. The external milieu is the ecosystem that you are addressing, the account team is addressing, or the ESO is addressing. So you have the customer outsourcing manager, the customer project team, the customer discipline engineers, and so on and so forth. So 2 things. Now, what I'm going to mention is, using these stakeholders, this is the stakeholder priority. I've prioritized as per the what is a common way of prioritizing stakeholders on concern and power. I want to use the stakeholder assessment to manage my proposal dimensions. So that's what I'm going to show you next. And the other thing is the what is your milieu engagement plans being the project manager for the proposal. So what we did was I've taken the same uncertainties, the internal and external of market technology, people interactions, customer relationships, and then what we have analyzed is who is the stakeholder best responsible for managing which dimension of the proposal. So that's what I have listed here. So every stakeholder has a key role to play for ensuring proposal quality. And especially when you look at the delivery story, some of these proposal dimensions being managed here by these stakeholders, their concomitant responsibility during delivery becomes important as well. All right. So our first level of conclusion on this was when you have an inherent, you make an assessment for a given proposal on inherent capability and project attractiveness. So if your capability is high, your project attractiveness high is quadrant number 1, you go for it. In 2, you can go for, you can do it. In quadrant number 3, you need to build capability, and 4, you definitely don't have to touch. Okay. So the important thing is you have to make sure that you are able to win the proposal. You cannot spend your effort on making proposals that you may not win, and especially if you think you're not technically capable or you not address the social and political dimensions well enough, then don't spend the money on making the proposals. So stakeholder role clarity is also vital. That's the other thing that is important. So what I've done here is I've taken a very mature team, spent some time with them, and had them assess current proposal. So what we have done is instead of taking just technical, financial, social, and political dimensions, now we've gone to the next stage. This is again using the analytical hierarchy process, and by which what we have done is we've assessed what is your chances for winning your current proposal project. The numbers itself on the top right, the ideal best case rating here with respect to the worst case, we are showing you there. What it will tell you is with your best case and your worst case, how does your current proposal match? Where are you doing well regarding to the best case, and where you doing as bad as the worst case or even worse. So this is a two-level AHP. So the important thing then is translating our understanding of customer needs to functional and relationship dimensions, and I'm showing you here the two-level AHP that I used. So summary, relationship dimensions are important. Pre-sales activities, intense action upstream is very important. Managing relationships are important, especially in networks. I've not shown you a network analysis here right now. I'm just using AHP and decision-making techniques. But the next thing I would do is going into analytical neural nets type of analysis for understanding how these relationships add on. So good news and directions. The directions for me is essentially the management of proposals and delivery is essentially leading to whether you're able to articulate customer need. I think this is a major problem, especially given the lack of expertise and exposure to that domain. And the other thing is organization's ability to differentiate technology to meet that need. Okay. The other direction is the measurement on social political dimensions and link it to capability maturity model. That's an important thing, step to take further. Again, I mentioned this at the very beginning, correct excessive customer focus with technological competence. The good news is that ESOs have understood this pretty well. And a rough guess is that about 40 to 60% of revenues come without the need to bid. So this is the good news in the ESO organizations. But then, of course, they need to keep building on this and make sure that organizations and their accounts grow. With that, Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ayuni. And definitely the key takeaways for at least me have been the social, the other two skills which you had actually introduced, the social and the political, and also the 34 to 40% of revenue without the need to bid. Can we get? Up to 40 to 60, okay, without the need to bid. So I need to go back and tell my sales guys. So, if I could ask Mr. Shantilal Fernando to come on stage and hand over a memento to Dr. Ayuni.